used to tell people I enjoyed teaching. That wasn't really true. But it sounded better than admitting the job simply filled my time. Most of the staff assumed I had everything figured out. They didn't see how I stayed late in my classroom, pretending to grade papers just to avoid returning to a flat that felt more like a holding cell than a home. People believe what makes them comfortable. I never bothered to correct them. That Monday began like any other. Rain streaked the windows, a steady drizzle that left the whole building drowsy and muted. Students drifted in with the usual mix of complaints and half-hearted chatter. Jackets dripped. Trainers squeaked against the laminate floors. I didn't have the energy for anything elaborate, so I started with a simple warm-up. Draw a character you'd like to write about this term. Anyone at all. From a story, from your imagination. 10 minutes. Pencils scratched across paper. A few students argued over colored pencils. One boy tried to draw a dragon so large it swallowed the page. Ordinary chaos, comforting even. Then my attention drifted to the back row. Joel Watkins sat hunched over his desk, shoulders rigid, tongue caught between his teeth in focus. He was a quiet child, the kind who apologized even when he'd done nothing wrong. I expected something soft from him, a pet, maybe a cartoon figure. When he slid his paper forward shyly, something inside my chest went cold. The face he had drawn wasn't imaginary. It was familiar in a way that stole my breath. Wide brown eyes, hair falling unevenly across the forehead, a small dark mark along the right cheekbone, a mole Caleb had spent years trying to hide in photos. Caleb was my younger brother. We fought like brothers do, but I always believed I'd protect him. That night in the woods was just another argument that went too far. A moment I replayed so often it lost its sharpness. And it was the last time I saw him. 20 years had passed since I'd seen my brother's face. And here it was, sketched in pencil on loose-leaf paper by a boy who hadn't even been born when Caleb disappeared. I forced my voice to stay steady. Interesting. Who's this supposed to be? Joel hesitated. His pencil hovered. Then he carefully wrote a title above the drawing in small block letters. The Boy in the Leaves. A chill crept up my spine. Where did you get the idea? I asked. He looked up at me, open and earnest, as though the answer was obvious. He told me to draw him, he said, so you'd see. Suddenly the rain sounded louder. The room felt colder. The years I'd spent burying my brother's memory shifted, as if something beneath them had begun to stir. I spent the rest of the day convincing myself it meant nothing. Children draw strange things. They repeat details they overhear. Coincidence was easier than touching the alternative. By morning, I'd built a tidy wall around it. One drawing wasn't an omen. It was just a drawing. Then I began grading their free writes. During silent reading, I noticed a short piece from a girl who usually wrote about princesses and ponies. This time she described a boy standing beneath the trees, smiling a lopsided smile that revealed a chipped front tooth. Caleb had chipped his tooth falling off his bike at 7. My throat tightened. I set it aside and read the next. Another story. Another boy. He laughed like he couldn't quite catch his breath. Caleb wheezed when he laughed too hard. The third described a boy who walked as if something was stuck in his shoe. Caleb's leg had always been slightly shorter, something only family noticed. My pulse climbed, but fear wasn't what hit first. Anger did. Someone had to be behind this. Older kids spreading a cruel story. A sibling feeding details to younger ones. Children could be careless. Adults even more so. And beneath the anger was shame. That familiar voice telling me I was overreacting. That it shouldn't matter anymore. When silent reading ended, I addressed the class lightly. These stories. Many of you chose the same character. Did you plan that together? They shook their heads. Confused glances passed between them. No one told us to, one girl said. We just saw him. Saw him. In our dreams, another added. It was the same boy, a third clarified. My chest tightened. Why him? I asked. Why that face? Silence fell. Then a small boy who chewed on his jumper sleeves raised his hand halfway, lowered it, then raised it again. I encouraged him gently. He said he used to be your brother, the boy whispered. But he's different now. He hesitated. He wants you to find him. The room felt like it stopped breathing. I smiled tightly, muttered something about imagination and themes, and dismissed them for break. But my thoughts were already spinning. This couldn't continue. If someone was spreading stories about my family, I needed to know. If someone was influencing these children, it had to stop. I planned to investigate quietly, but deep down, something colder whispered that this had already gone too far. I didn't want to visit my mother. I never did. That house held memories I'd spent years sanding down into something manageable. But after the drawings, and the dreams, I couldn't avoid it. The drive felt longer than it was. When I pulled into the driveway, the house looked smaller. Or maybe I'd just grown while my mother remained frozen in grief. She opened the door before I knocked. "Evan," she said, smiling tightly. We exchanged small talk until it ran out, as it always did. Then she led me down the hall. Caleb's room was preserved exactly as she'd left it. Posters faded by sunlight, trophies untouched, bedding smoothed, as though he might return any moment. I expected to find something disturbed. Nothing was. That should have comforted me. Instead, it unsettled me. "Oh," my mother said suddenly. Something came. She handed me an envelope. No return address. Inside was a crayon drawing, rough and uneven. Caleb stood in our backyard, smiling. Same haircut, same bright eyes, same tilt of his head. "You sent this?" she asked quietly. "An apology?" "No," I whispered. The timing snapped into place. A week ago was when the dreams began. Then I noticed something else. The hill behind him was wrong. Our yard had never dipped like that. The slope matched the woods, the embankment from the night he vanished. In crayon, it showed the truth. A sudden drop. A fall that could hurt a child. Whoever drew this wasn't remembering the past. They were remembering my past. By the next morning, professionalism had worn thin. I wasn't thinking like a teacher or an adult. I called Joel in first. "I didn't hear it," he said quietly. "He showed me. In a dream." I pressed. He nodded. "He doesn't like when you ask about him," Joel whispered. "He wants you to remember on your own." "Remember what?" Joel swallowed. "He said you were there the night he changed. No one knew that." "He remembers what you did," Joel said. "But you remember it wrong." Then, barely audible, "He's coming to school today." By midday, dread replaced curiosity. Outside, beyond the football pitch at the Treeline, a small figure stood watching the building. Watching me. I knew bone deep it was Caleb. By lunchtime, the figure was gone. I told myself I'd imagined it. But my feet carried me forward anyway. The forest swallowed sound. Leaves shifted as if something had just slipped away. Memory surged back, sharp and unfiltered. I stepped into the trees. The hollow was wrong. Child-sized. Fresh. "You left me," whispered the ground. I tore through the leaves until my fingers hit paper. A drawing. Caleb's face, but wrong. Older. Warped. I'm closer now. Back in class, the students began repeating my words. My words. "You always slow me down. I'm not your babysitter. Just go." Then a girl asked softly, without looking at me, "Do you remember pushing him?" That was when I knew. This wasn't haunting me. It was forcing me to remember. I returned to the forest. The truth surfaced in fragments. I shoved him. I turned away. I left. The forest listened. Something rose from the hollow. Not Caleb, but shaped like him. Fed on grief. On memory. And when it attacked, small arms pulled it away. A familiar voice whispered, "Go." I ran. Later, alone on my kitchen floor, bleeding and hollowed, I finally said it aloud. "I'm sorry." The tapping came that night. Soft. Familiar. 3 knocks. Then silence. I still don't know if it meant forgiveness or goodbye.